All right, before we begin, inshallah, today, seeing as this is Thrive, and we like to spend time reflecting every single week, I want to begin with a reflection question. And I'm going to request if you can turn to someone beside you, near you, and reflect over this question and share your thoughts. And then I want to hear your thoughts, inshallah. So I want you to begin, inshallah, with a blessing in your life that you are incredibly grateful for. Now, imagine someone else saw you with that blessing. Again, you don't have to talk about the specific of the blessing. Whatever it is, let's imagine that someone saw you with it. Or they were able to put together the fact that you have this blessing. And they said to you, you're so lucky. Your life must be so great. The question is, what is something potentially negative or just a side effect / consequence of the blessing that they're not aware of that you wish they knew? Does that make sense? Should I run through that again? I'll run through it again, but a little quicker. Think about a blessing in your life that you're grateful for. Remember, you don't have to share that specific blessing, what it is, with the person beside you. You don't have to, because maybe you're like, no, right? Like, I'm not looking for no evil eye. Now, I want you to imagine someone else finds out about it somehow. They see you with it. They find out, they know that you have this blessing in your life. And they say to you, you're so lucky, your life must be so great. They obviously don't know the full picture. The question is, what's something about that blessing? Some consequence, some side effect, something about it, potentially even negative, that you wish they understood or knew about you and that blessing that might change how they feel about it. All right, bismillah, go for it. Talk to the person beside you. All right, inshallah, bismillah. Let's hear from you guys. What'd you guys talk about? What's something you wish they would understand about the other side of the ostensibly glamorous side of the blessing that they found out about?
Parenthood.
Sorry?
Parenthood.
Parenthood. That's the blessing you're saying? And people are like, oh, it's great to have kids until it's 10 p.m. Huh? No, you're right, man. I feel you, man. I do. It's a beautiful thing, right? It is a beautiful thing. It really is a blessing. And you're right, though. People often will compliment, really just focusing in on the good side of it. You know, I remember one person told me, they said to me, you know, it must be great having kids. It's like having your own butlers. Wallahi al-azim. It's like you're having your own butlers. You just tell them, go bring me water. Go bring me stuff like that. And I was like, we all served our time as butlers. I'm just passing it on. You know what I mean? Like, so people see only one side of it. What happens when the butler resigns? So I'm not doing it anymore, right? Yeah. Okay, what else? Right. So let's word it this way. I wish they understood or saw.
That it takes a lot of my energy and time.
Right. I wish they saw the energy and time that goes into maintaining and holding down this job that you are praising me for. Absolutely. Remember, you don't have to mention the blessing itself, just more the sentiment. I do acknowledge. I think the mic's cutting out, right? Any idea what's going on? Anyone else want to go? Yeah. Brothers? This is family counseling going on here, isn't there? Huh? Brothers. Brothers are a blessing? I didn't even know there was a good side to having brothers. I only saw the bad side. Well, tell me about the good side. No, you're right. It's nice having brothers, right? Because they maybe pass stuff down to you. Do people still do that? Do people still pass stuff down? Or is that just old school now? They do, right? Can we change the mics? So what do you wish they understood about your brothers? No, I hadn't turned it on yet, but I wanted to give them a chance. Yeah? Well, everyone likes your brothers, but they don't know what kind of bullies they are. Huh? Are you the youngest? You're the middle. Oh, middle child. I feel you. I feel you, brother. I'm not a middle child, but I've heard. It's tough. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
Business ownership. I have a friend who said I escaped him the 9 to 5 and he really wanted to, but now he's at 24/7.
Yeah, that's the classic, right? Everyone escapes the 9 to 5 so I can work my own hours, and your own hours become 24/7.
Exactly.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
And the responsibility of just owning a business, like before you only focused on your role, now you're everything for that.
Subhanallah. Yeah. Subhanallah. Absolutely. Yeah.
The aspect I thought of when you brought up the prompt, maybe this is not the best way to articulate it, but basically, sometimes when you do have a blessing, it makes you, it's almost more torturous to crave the completion of that blessing than the person that doesn't have it at all.
Okay. No, I can see where you're coming from.
It's a different answer than.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, very often when people are like, wow, you have this blessing, it's amazing, they don't know that actually that blessing is very torturous to have in its incompletion compared
Subhanallah.
to someone who just
Yeah.
don't have it at all and just they've already learned how to live without it. And they
Right. When someone's out of the market for something, it doesn't bother them that they don't have it because they're just like, I'm out of the market, I'm not even thinking about it. Right? But someone who's in the market but isn't quite there yet is going to feel so like, I'm just there, like just a little bit more, and it just eats them up when they haven't achieved it. Whereas everyone who sees them goes, you're doing great. Look at you, look how far you've come, and you're like, yeah, but not exactly how far I want to go. Beautiful. I think that's one that people probably miss a lot, right? I'm not going to ask if anyone here is in medical school, but it's a classic one, right? Oh, medical school, mashallah, your parents must be so proud. And it's like, I'm dying. It's so hard. I'm drowning in debt. Rotations are crazy. No, it's tough, right? So it's so easy to see one side. Yeah, go ahead. Living overseas. Oh, how exotic that must be until it's not. Yeah, can you tell me some details? Just like general challenges.
Like back home, they think you're living the life, you don't work.
Oh, okay. So people who are looking at you and go, you're living in Canada. Yeah. Oh, like money's on trees here. Just send us a new iPhone, like this. Yeah, no, I feel you.
I would say vice versa as well. We look at people living at home that they're at ease as well.
Right, absolutely. You know, you ever go on vacation? You're like, I should move here, right? Because on vacation, every place looks like you should move there. Until you speak to a local, right? Whenever you speak to like the taxi drivers, they'll tell you the reality of living in that society. They're just like, yeah, they're not happy a lot of times. Anyone else? Yeah. Right, subhanAllah. We ask for clarity on matters. And when we receive clarity, it can actually be really painful because it exposes to us realities that maybe at that time we weren't ready to face. And so it's just overwhelming, right? But over time, like you said, you're grateful because it's always better to live face to face with a painful reality than a, pleasant lie. But yeah, if you're not ready for it, you think you're ready, so you're like, Ya Allah, show me, and then you see and you're like, Ya Allah, maybe I shouldn't have asked, right? Allah says this in the Quran, so interesting. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. Oh, believers, don't ask about things such that if they were exposed to you and made clear to you, that they would actually cause you a lot of pain. It's where you get ignorance is bliss, right? Where it's just like when you just don't know. Any of y'all like grab a snack? Like, wait, how many calories are in it? And you're just like, that's a question for after we eat it, right? Like I'm trying to enjoy this. You just eat it and then you're just like, whew, okay, let's not do that again, right? But you just don't want to know sometimes. Y'all looking at me like you've never done that. Come on, y'all. Like, this is a safe space. You can be like, we feel you, Shaykh. Right? MashaAllah, everyone looking at me like I'm the only one. Okay, anyone else? Last person. Anyone want to share? What's something people don't know about a blessing that you wish they understood? Yeah. Physical fitness. Subhanallah. So athleticism and the injuries that come with it. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more. Like, they see the what? They see all the actual performance, and they go, wow, you're so lucky to be able to do that. Yeah, subhanallah. Right? Subhanallah. I think we all love to see, right? We know it. We subconsciously know this about everyone and everything, but we don't often allow ourselves to really be reminded of it. And that's why when you see like a celebrity show you the other side of how difficult it is, we're all like, oh, I like that's good to know, because it's almost like we were deluded and then it was making us jealous. And then you see the real side of the paparazzi out there trying to get pictures of your kid. You're like, stay away from my children. They're like come for me, but don't. They're like, no, I want to see your children too. I want to see what school they go to. I want to see who their friends are. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know I signed up for this. It's tough. It's real tough. SubhanAllah. Yeah, someone had their hand up. Speaking Arabic. Tell me more. Right. So when you speak Arabic, they're like, you're so lucky you speak Arabic. You must know what the Imam is saying. Oh, that's why you're crying in prayer. And you're like, no, that's actually something else going on, but I'm just joking. But yeah, Arabic. Everyone assumes that, if you speak Arabic, you must understand the Quran, and, you and like Sahaba are like this. Like, no, it's not kind of how that is. And it's, anyone studying Arabic? Some of y'all? A little bit? Even Duolingo counts? Yeah? The Duolingo hands came up. Yes, yeah, y'all count too. It's hard. You make a little bit of progress, everyone's like, oh, good for you, you're learning the language. You're like, you don't even know what I'm going through trying to learn this. This is tough. This is not easy. MashaAllah. Very good. Okay, Bismillah, let's get started. If it's your first time at Thrive, yeah, we haven't started yet. This is just a preamble, kind of like, what's going on, how's everyone doing kind of thing. This is small talk, okay? But I wanted to get us into a little bit of a reflective state of mind before we begin. We typically do that. And then we'll segue in, inshallah. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. So, some of you might be aware, and if you've come before, hopefully, inshallah, you can recall that the goal of this series is to help us live with heartfulness, meaning living with a deeper orientation towards the spiritual realities of the world around us. That when I wake up in the morning, I asked someone this question recently. I said, when you wake up in the morning, describe to me your perspective of life. Like, what's your thoughts? Like, what's your mindset? And they said to me that when I wake up in the morning, my first thing is, okay, what do I need to do today? So they start listing, okay, I got to get to work on time. Before that, I got to do X, Y, Z. When I get back, here are my chores. Here are the things I need to do. We have a function coming up in 2 weeks, so need to start planning for that. And the person listed out all the daily tasks. And if you think about that, maybe that resonates with some of us. That's kind of our orientation towards life. We wake up and we're just thinking about what's happening in my day. I'm going to go through my day. From time to time, I'll pause and maybe I'll pray. Maybe I won't, but maybe I'll pray. And then I'll go on with my life. At the end of the day, I'll come home, I'll get stuff done, and I'll sit down, turn on Netflix, watch something, go to sleep, wake up, and repeat. And maybe we live for the weekend. So when the weekend rolls around, now it's time to live life. For 5/7 of the week, we're only living at 30%. 100% comes out of us on the weekend. And on the weekend, what's the plan? Well, the whole week we're planning for it, looking forward to it. Weekend rolls around, get friends together, do this, that, catch up on a few things. End of the weekend, dread Monday morning. And this is how week in, week out looks. That is one orientation towards life. And that may very well be the orientation for a lot of us. That's what we're trying to address here, is that the orientation that we are aiming for is one where we wake up in the morning and we're not simply thinking about just the tasks in front of me, just this horizontal plane of existence, this world. But it's coming face to face and moving through life face to face with those realities of what it means to exist as a human being in this temporary world. We're not just cognitive beings. We're not just social beings. We're not just people of the dunya. We are living in Allah's world. We are His servants, and at every moment, we are interacting with Him through our interactions with the world. And that's a very different way of living. Because imagine you wake up in the morning, and you're not merely asking yourself, what do I need to do today? Ibn Ata'illah, the great Egyptian scholar, he wrote, الغافل إذا أصبح ينظر ماذا يفعل. The person who is living really with heedlessness, when they wake up in the morning, they ask themselves, what do I want to do today? And he says, والعاقل, the intelligent person, إذا أصبح ينظر ماذا يفعل الله به. This person reflects on what is it that Allah wants from me today, and what is it that Allah will bring into my life today. See, when you study theology, you learn that everything that takes place with Allah's permission. Now you hear that in Sunday school and you go, yeah, I get that, okay. But imagine you really started to internalize that, right? And you started to think, okay, today when I run into my friends, I'm going to interact with them maybe like I interact with them every other day or every other week. So I meet them. And rather than saying, well, what do they want from me? I ask myself, first I acknowledge, wow, this meeting was not merely by chance. Allah, in His infinite wisdom and knowledge, decreed that we should meet here today. That it's not a coincidence. That you don't begin to look at life as just coincidences happening. But you see the divine decrees underpinning. This is not random. And suddenly you begin to really take things a little bit more seriously, because it's not just another day. It's another opportunity. It's another chance. It's not me showing up however I want. I begin to ask myself, if Allah decreed that we should meet, and He's watching this interaction, how does He want it to go? And let's see if I can live up to that standard. And then you begin to treat people not based on how you feel, but based on how you know Allah wants you to feel, or how Allah wants you to treat them. And suddenly you develop much more stability and consistency in your behavior, because it's not riding the roller coaster of your emotions and feelings. It's rooted in a very different outlook on life. Imagine we could live with more courage. We could say things that we deeply mean and believe, but we maybe have always shied away from because all we're thinking about is me and you and the person in front of you. But imagine you thought more about Allah's watching me, and in this interaction He would be so pleased if I said this, or I did this, or life is short, and tomorrow I might not get the chance to say this. That's very real. And when one lives with that awareness of this spiritual reality, you live very differently. Recently, someone really close to me told me about a family member of theirs who was diagnosed with cancer. The first thing they said to me, they said, when I got the news, immediately I just had this moment of clarity where I asked myself, what's important to me now? when this is what's happening with them, what's important to me? I can't just go on with business as usual. Because the fragility of life is exposed. It becomes clear. The dunya kind of covers it up. And shaitan, he constantly reminds us or whispers to us, convinces us, you got a long time. You're only 30. You're only 30. You ever talk to a 15-year-old? If you're 30, you're old. I'm telling you from experience. Right? They're looking at you like, right? Were you around in World War II? Right? I'm trying to figure out, is that just like ageism, or like, do they just not know history? Like, is a math problem? What's the issue here? Right? You know Hitler? No, I didn't know Hitler, you know? But like, they think we're old. And we think we're young. We're like 30. That's 30. I'm not even 40 yet. And when if you're 40, you say, I'm not even 50. And everyone looks and goes, I'm not even this yet. But subhanAllah, it's like it takes one diagnosis. God forbid, la samahallah, may Allah protect us all. But that's all it takes for a person to go, wait, none of this is guaranteed. And you start to like reevaluate where you're investing your time, where you're putting your time. Are you all getting annoyed by this? Should I just take it off and just do straight, normal? Or do you prefer this in and out? So it keeps us on our toes. Huh? In and out, okay. Y'all live on the edge like that, okay. Subhanallah. No, really, like, that's important, is to live with heartfulness. And that's why at the beginning we spoke about hurry. Hurry being a major obstacle to living with heartfulness, is we're hurrying through life. We spoke about addictions, how you can't live heartfully if you are constantly being controlled by these subconscious impulses, these addictions. You can't show up with complete presence, with your entire being open to the realities of not just this life, but those greater existential and spiritual realities, if you're concerned about distractions. All these things are obstacles to us really showing up. And so reflection, we said, as we now move towards solutions, things that will help us develop that heartfulness, that we live not just with our minds, not just thinking our way through life, you know, our whole being, feeling. And subhanAllah, like, it is so widespread. Emotional constipation is so widespread. We don't feel. And then we wonder why life seems so bland. And it just doesn't feel, no pun intended, it doesn't feel like we're like it's very meaningful. It just seems like a routine, day in, day out. And then you fall prey to vices and sins and you wonder why. It's like you don't have anything greater to live for. So, not just thinking our way through life, but really bringing all aspects of our being to bear on our daily existence. And we know someone like that when we see them. I'm sure all of us can think of someone that we know, that it seems when they show up, no part of them is left at home, no part of them is stuffed into the shadows. They live like wholly, like every part of them comes to the table. When you talk to them, they're thinking about what you're saying. They're feeling it with you. They're really engaged in life. We sometimes describe people like that, like they're in the driver's seat of life. Right? Not just in the back, kind of like letting life take them. Very, Henry David Thoreau-esque. Really wanting to front the realities of life. And we admire people like that. We admire people who can say what's in their heart, to people that they care about and love. Right? They don't shy away from like, what's everyone going to say? What are they going to think about it? They don't shy away because, I'm just too busy with this. Wherever they are fully there. That's heartfulness. And that's been the focus of our series. Now, we started today with a little bit of a discussion around how we look at blessings in our lives. Because one of the realities for all of us is that we're going to experience all the time a wide range and diversity of lifestyles and circumstances that people enjoy. Every day when you go out in life, you're going to see some people doing better than you. You're going to see people who have things you don't have. They are in positions that you're not. They come from backgrounds that you don't come from. They have privileges you don't have. If you don't see them outside, you see them on your phone. You scroll and you see people that we have access to it now. We could see anyone from all over the world, what they have, how they're living. They'll flaunt their lifestyle, a day in the life. And naturally we compare. It's a very natural thing to do. If you don't resist the urge, you'll compare. Now, the spiritually immature perspective when seeing others with blessings is to only notice how it is that they have what you don't. You see someone, and that's when we make comments like, "Oh, you're so lucky. Your life must be so great." It's a spiritually immature perspective. To think that whatever good this person has only comes with good. See, the spiritually mature perspective is to always know that roses come with thorns. That's just how life is. I remember one of the most comforting things I learned, and it's weird because I say learned, but what I don't mean that I didn't know it before, but like the day when I really kind of realized it, it just became a reality in my mind, my head. I was like, oh, in my heart, I was like, I get this now. Is when I remember one of my teachers saying it, and I don't know. Sometimes we do need things to be said that we already know, because sometimes our hearts are more receptive than other times. So imagine at a time when your heart's not very receptive and you hear something, you go, oh yeah, kind of knew that. And another time your heart's super receptive. The same statement is made and you're moved to tears. And it's not like you didn't know that. You knew it. But it's your heart was so receptive. And also maybe the person was so sincere. So I remember my teacher saying this, and he said, just remember one thing. No one in life has been given everything. And it's such a simple statement. And it's such an obvious statement when you think about it. Right? I have a friend, he's like probably 6'5". And it's nice to be 6'5", sometimes. But he flies a lot, and he tells me, man, economy class, yo, it's so hard. It's so hard. He's like, man, every time I get in there, I feel like I'm just too big. Right? We don't see that side of it. We don't even think about that side of it. We don't think of the number of times you just bump your head on something. Right? Because we don't bump our heads. Because we're not that tall. Do you get what I'm saying? We don't see that side. We don't see the side where someone like that, people see them and get intimidated. And they're like, why are you scared? Like, I'm just a normal person. They're like, no, you're pretty tall. We only see one side of it. The spiritually mature perspective is to always remind ourselves, if someone has something, and mashallah, they're doing well, just understand that there's something else, somewhere else in their life that Allah will not have given them everything that they have, and maybe not even everything that you have. And when you remind yourself of that, you're able to kind of like calm that comparison. Calm that comparison, right? Because in order to live with heartfulness, one part of that is to live with gratitude. But one of the greatest obstacles to gratitude is seeing others have supposedly so much more than me. Right? So there was a quote I came across where they said, a lot of our envy is rooted in seeing others' blessings, but not seeing the struggling humans behind them. Some of you might have heard this quote, but I remember it genuinely shifted my perspective on people. Right? You pull up at the gym and you see someone and you're like, that person is so disciplined. They're here every single day. It's crazy. I wish I had that discipline. But you don't realize that the only reason they're there is what? Because it's like the one thing that's keeping their life together. We're looking at it from a privileged position of, yeah, they just got so much discipline, man. I wish I had that discipline. Meanwhile, the showing up at the gym is not a discipline thing, right? Like in part it is, but in other part it's really what's just keeping them sane. Every other aspect of their life feels out of control. This is the one that they feel they can hold and keep in control, so they hold on to it for dear life. And that's one of the challenges of coming from affluence and prosperity. Because there's no drive. Everything is great for you. Why should you put any effort in? It's a really interesting kind of paradox. It's like you don't ask for difficulty, but subhanAllah, the way difficulty will just kick you in the backside and say, get going because nobody's here to help you, is very different than someone else who's like, why would I want to do any of that? We're doing great. My parents are doing great. My life's pretty good. So why would I even want to? It's very hard to find the motivation. I've spoken to people like this. They've told me, Shaykh, like, I want to do good. I do. But like, there's just so much comfort in my life. There's no urgency. Right? And parents do this. I talk about it all the time because I think parents can sometimes be so simple in their thinking. Maybe I've shared this with you, but I'll share it again. I had this parent come to me. I still remember it so vividly. He's telling me, he tells me his life story. He's like, man, do you know how difficult my life was? And you've heard some variation of this story of how difficult life was. And admittedly, mashallah, a lot of sacrifice. All for my children, Shaykh. I did all this for them, to come to this country so they wouldn't have to live the way I did. And we come here, and I'm working so hard, and I raise these children, and now they don't have any discipline and any motivation and any work ethic. They're like, Shaykh, it makes no sense. We had very little, and we still worked so hard. And I was still able to do some schooling and receive an education, albeit not the greatest. I created a scenario, a situation where my child never has to worry about chores and other things. All they need to do is study. And Shaykh, they don't study. They keep dropping out of a program. They sign up. I'm becoming this. 3 months in, drop out of it. Do another one, drop out of it. They're like, Shaykh, what am I supposed to do? Why is my child so lazy? I said, listen, have you ever thought that maybe the reason why you were able to do what you were able to do is because of your difficulty? That your difficulty shaped you into a person that developed work ethic, and you were forced to sacrifice, and you deprived your child of all of that. This is a safe space, guys. I make my 10-year-old, don't bring the butler comments over here. I make my 10-year-old son shovel the snow. Okay? I help a little bit, but I'm a supervisor. That's my role. So he shovels the snow. And the amount of people that come for me and go, Shaykh, we're going to call Child Protection Services. Shaykh, what's this? Yeah. I'm like, look, my child needs some difficulty. I genuinely believe this. Calculated difficulty, but no, I don't believe it's good to just not give them any responsibility. We give them no responsibility, and then they hit 25, and it's like, go out there, hold down a job, buy a whole house, pay it off. My guy was not even putting dishes in the sink. And he's supposed to go buy a whole house with 3 sinks in it? Where is this coming from? The classic, stay away from the opposite gender. And at 25, get married. How does that work? Where? Who? Y'all know what I'm talking about? The upbringing doesn't always align with the desired outcome. And I'm trying to explain this to this parent. I'm like, You don't realize. You think despite your hardships you were able to achieve that? What if because of your hardships you were able to achieve that? And it's not the most intuitive way to think about it. Because in our heads, remove all obstacles and they'll thrive. But it's overcoming the obstacles in which they learn to thrive. And see, the victim will never see that. Someone with a victim's mentality will never see it that way. Because all they will see is the good that others have. Yeah, see, that person has that, that's why they're able to do it. That person has that, that's why they're able to do it. That person has so much money, they come from wealth, that's why they're able to do that. Actually, one would argue that no, they had no incentive to go in and become something. Why? Because they had a whole estate that they could just rest on. No, with no drive, they chose to go and do it. That's admirable. And you have every reason to put the work in because you have no estate to rely on. You don't come from money. You don't have an excuse. There should be a strong fire pushing you to work and really make something of yourself. There should be. And if there isn't, that's a concern. Right? So perspective. We develop perspective through reflection. Look, we all see the same world to some extent. We see it. But our perspectives differ based on so many factors. But one factor is how much do we reflect? Because when you start to see the human that's struggling behind the blessing, suddenly the blessing doesn't become so desirable. Do you get what I'm saying? Suddenly, the blessing doesn't become so desirable. And there's so many examples you can give of this. You know, sometimes you admire someone with a really nice car until you see how much they pay in insurance. And then you're like, yeah, you can have that. Do you know what I'm saying? Until you go to sleep at nighttime worried that someone's going to rob it. No, it's real. You see someone with something, and this is the reality of the world, is that now we live in the age of the persona, where the goal is to try to convince people that I actually have everything perfect in my life. And the moment you see that, you have to remind yourself that that's just a lie. Because Allah's system is He never gave anybody everything. He never gave everybody everything. Even our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as perfect of a human being as he was, he didn't get the opportunity to see his uncle accept Islam. He didn't get that. That's something that, you know, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, when his father accepted Islam, Abu Bakr started crying. And the Prophet ﷺ said, are you crying out of joy because your father accepted Islam? He said, no, Ya Rasulullah, I'm crying because I'm remembering how your uncle never accepted Islam. And I'm wishing that, you know what? Ya Allah, I'm willing to trade in my father's accepting Islam for your uncle's accepting Islam so that you wouldn't be paying so much seeing him reject and refuse to accept Islam. It was a painful experience. And so this is a deep reminder for us of the need to develop spiritual maturity through reflection. So last week we spoke a lot about reflecting and contemplating on ourselves. Y'all remember that? Sorry? 5 steps we talked about, but also just a lot of questions to ask yourself and a lot of patterns to look for in yourself. I know some people were like, why'd you at me, Shaykh? And I'm like, I didn't at nobody, but if it fits, it fits. Today, I want to talk a little bit about reflecting on Allah's creation. And this is something scholars have always done. I want to share with you just one example of this, because it just goes to show how incredible scholars were when it came to taking seriously subjects that today and topics that today we would just not even consider Islamic. The great Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullahi alayhi, he wrote a book called The Wondrous Nature of the Creations of Allah. Ajaibu makhluqatillah. And one of them he talks about in there, he talks about birds. Again, the goal is to live in wonder. You know, Shaykh Mikhail, I love this quote that he has. He says, we have to become like children again. Right? We have to become like children again, where we're just so curious about the world. We don't look at things and just take it for granted, because children don't do that. Children will ask you questions that you're like, I never thought about that. That's a great question. Where did that come from? No one taught them that. It's a natural curiosity they have about the world and about life. David Foster Wallace, he says, sometimes some of the most difficult things to notice in life are the most obvious. Because they're so obvious, you never pause to think about them. Right? You never pause to think about them. And there's so many examples of this. I've given this example before, but I'll give it again just to highlight. I still remember someone coming to me, and they had newly accepted Islam, and they said, Shaykh, how do I know when to say MashaAllah and when to say Alhamdulillah? They're like, it's so confusing. I don't know when to say which one. I say the wrong one at the wrong time. And I never thought about that. Imagine you didn't know how to say that. That would be socially really awkward. Right? My grandma passed away, MashaAllah. Right? Like, no, you just say the wrong one. You're trying to just like fit in with all the other Muslims. Right? You're just trying to fit in, say the right thing. You said the wrong one. So they're asking me, Shaykh, can you give me a strategy how to remember them? I was like, I've never thought about a strategy. Because I don't ever remember even learning them. It was just natural to me. It seems like that. There was a time, but I just don't recall it. So to me, it's just so obvious you say this and you say that, until someone reminds you, no, it's not obvious. So that's an example. There's so many examples of this, right? So Imam al-Ghazali, he talks about birds. And does anyone watch National Geographic here? Yeah? MashaAllah. No, I'm going to say MashaAllah. Like, I admire that, MashaAllah. That's good stuff. I don't, and reading Imam Ghazali, I realize I probably should. But subhanAllah, he talks about birds and how they're designed. He says, number one, look how Allah Ta'ala created birds without any really heavy elements that would hinder their flight. Right? He gave them feet, but no hands. Because again, that's different limbs that then take up different weight. And then you have to learn how to distribute between them. He said, look at the legs. The skin of the legs is not the skin of the rest of the body. Because what if they were covered in feathers? Then they get soaked, get soiled, they get damaged or dirty in wet conditions and mud if they land somewhere. But no, you get this coarse, durable skin on their legs. And so that can withstand water, mud, rough surface. It just kind of flows off of it. He says, look at their aerodynamic form. They have like a semicircular chest so that they can cut through air with less resistance. Their wing tips are rounded. They had rounded wing tips so that, again, aerodynamic. The roots of their feathers are firm and woven into their skin so that the speed of their flying does not rip it out. But yet, they're still very light. Right? They're still very light to enable them to fly. It's so fascinating, right? The wings that are involved in so much of the flying are so deeply rooted. And yet when you touch them, they feel so fragile, light, If you look at a single feather, from thin threads, strong, but flexible. Because if they were rigid, then they would be cutting through. And if they were too limp, then they wouldn't be able to cut through. And so there's this rigidity, but enough that they're flexible. The shafts of their wings of the actual feather are hollow, he says. I mean, we have bones, but our bones are heavy. And for them, it's hollow, enabling flight, easier flight, and reducing the weight. Dirt, if you ever felt the feathers, right? Dirt doesn't really cling to them. Think about our clothes. Dirt clings to our clothes, generally speaking. they're able to just shake and water comes off. Right? So simple for them. And so they can dry off really quickly. There's so much more. There's so much more. It's fascinating. He talks about weight optimization. He talks about the stability and the steering of birds, the insulation. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but it's just so interesting that a scholar, a great, great scholar of our tradition, would have spent so much time reflecting on how perfect the design of Allah's creation is. And Allah Ta'ala wants us to reflect on this. Because when we do, we open up ourselves to a world that is incredibly fascinating. Now, one of the challenges that we all have here, or a lot of us do, is to try to reignite the passion for learning within us. I really believe that for many of us, the education system we went through really stamped out or at least stifled our desire for learning. You know, I'll never forget this one person telling me after they graduated, maybe 2-3 years after they'd graduated, they said, you know what, Shaykh, guess what? Ever since I graduated, I never read a book. I'm like, that's not the flex you think it is at all. Like, not even close. How are you taking pride over having never read a book? No, it's subhanallah. Like, subhanallah. You know, in the traditional Islamic education system, when you finish, you're taught, now you have the tools to begin studying properly. Your studies begin now. Now go read. Because now you've built a foundation from which you are in a position to understand things. And for us, we think it's the end. Like, I took my last exam, I'm done. Graduated from learning, not education. I'm graduated from learning. Subhanallah. And then we stop growing. This is another thing to think about. You know, when you were in university, if you felt like you were really growing really fast, and then once you graduated, you feel like you just kind of stagnated, you know? Like you just kind of stopped growing. One thing to think about is in university, whether you like it or not, you are constantly being challenged with new ideas, new theories, new information. That's going to shape you. That's going to change how you think. And you're surrounded by different people. And in those interactions, you were growing as well. After university, if we don't keep learning, we're just regurgitating the same things. No growth, stagnation. We start meeting the same people only. Because we go to work, come home. Same social circle, come home. That's it. We don't meet new people that challenge our ideas, that we might be inspired by, that we might see something different. In university, you were interacting with every different type of person. Every new class you joined, you probably made like 2-3 friends you got stuck with in the group project. You know what I'm talking about? Those group projects, you know? And you made some friends in them. Yeah, now you don't have that. You have the same people at your workplace day in, day out. There's no wonder that you stagnate. And this is why we have to. You know, once we graduate and we settle into our lives, we have to make it a real intentional point in our lives to go out and be a part of the community. Be part of a learning community. Be part of a social community to meet new people. You know, people, they get together to do hikes. They get together to tour downtown Toronto. And you could join them. They get together to do social events. They play sports together. And every time you join, you meet new people. To keep growing. So we need to keep learning and develop that desire to reflect. And we need to keep putting ourselves in positions to meet new people so that we keep growing and learning from new people. We'll stop here, inshallah. I wanted to talk a little bit about, last time we talked about 5 steps, practical steps to kind of sit and reflect. But I wanted to talk about 5 stages you go through as you're reflecting. Not pertaining to your actual body posture, but more pertaining to like what you're aiming to achieve when you start reflecting and then you move to the next stage and you move through it. Inshallah, in our next session, I will walk through the stages of contemplation, inshallah. All right, Jazakumullah khair to all of you for coming out. We'll stop here, inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Again, Jazakumullah khair to all of you for coming out. Yeah. Sorry? Is there class next Monday? No. So it'll be the following Monday, inshallah. That's the goal. All right? Jazakumullah khair. And hopefully y'all aren't too upset. I didn't say anything, this time? I didn't at you? Promise you? Okay, inshallah. We'll see you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.